quality of work is an important thing too. At the end of the day, they're paying us and our employees, and we have to make sure we hold up our end of the bargain there too, not just for the company's sake, but for the clients.
The problem that we're having is our clients never get back to us on
quality of lead.
Yeah. So if they're not willing to do their side of the work, it makes it hard. And so therefore we can't adjust our strategies. And so we're just trying to take an extra step and see how we can do it.
For instance, I've always believed that you could get 10 clients and you can take on take on a small brand new business and give them SEO and marketing and website for a whole year.
Search engines don't do attribution. Either they don't do it or it's not clear. So there's an underreporting issue there. And then, what happens when they don't click, right? They just do the AI search and then they end up finding a brand and they go to your website and that's a direct, or maybe it's a branded search that they search for, right?
Just because what we found, to even work in and get placing people into the AI overviews has taken a bit more time than what our normal SEO time would be. So we have a lot of clients who they're small businesses, and I've had to be upfront with them, with the amount of hours that they kind of have with the tiers that we use, the packages that we have.
And I think there's been a lot of talk about, will SEO as a profession, shrink or go down? I think some people will get out of the business, whether agency or independence, but I think people who persevere are going to be more valuable and be able to charge more to clients because those needs are still there. Those business outcomes that they need are still there. And the complexity is greater to be able to solve that and actually help them show up in search.
Miles, could you please do a little bit of an introduction to yourself?
Yeah. My name is Miles. I own a SEO consulting agency called Why Stuff Sucks. I've written 3 books on the topic of why stuff sucks, why leadership sucks, and why career advice sucks. I've spent a better part of 20 years running other people's companies. So I have operations chops. I left an agency job I had 4 years ago to start my own SEO consulting business. And I've been doing that since. I've started a couple other businesses and bought a couple of businesses as well. So I'm a serial entrepreneur a little bit later in life as opposed to earlier, but I really am able to leverage all those experiences, both client and otherwise, to bring that to bear for my SEO clients today.
Kind of sounds a little bit almost in a similar area. I'm Blake Baxendell. My company's Wahan Design. We are a full digital marketing agency. SEO is our core service, and along with Google ads, over the top TV ads. We pretty much take the whole marketing strategy and bring it to fruition for our clients. And I also do fractional CMO work, so I actually enjoy the consulting side and more than the production side of things. Similar situation. I've been in the industry for 20 years, but mostly as a programmer. And then it was more about 4 years ago, I took my, side gig, freelance gig, and brought it into a company. Yeah, now we have a nice little team that kind of takes care of everything. And here we are.
And here we are indeed. Both of you have the one thing in common of starting off agencies. So let's dive right into the questions of that. Blake, what was one thing that you'd wish you had done earlier when building your agency?
Yeah, so for me, I think I still pretty much did this when kind of early for a business anyways, but I'm sure I would have liked to have done it right off the bat. Probably about 7 months into my business, I decided to get a business coach. It's more of a group coaching atmosphere. So what made me really decide on that is, they really helped me kind of open up my mind to the whole marketing world versus, just really thinking more about myself at the time. Just, my mindset was like, okay, well, I want to be the best, do the best, and still have this mindset. But it's, the thing is, I had to look at, people weren't competition, other agencies, everything. I now look at them more of like partners because, there's a lot of times where, one agency might be better at something than we are. And, so we always look at partnerships and vice versa. So that was the biggest thing was, getting a business coach helped me out, helped me organize my business. I went from maybe only having, 5 clients at a time to like 40, pretty quickly. So that was probably the biggest change for me.
And you, Miles, did you have also quite a big change or?
Yeah, I would say I was fortunate. I found a business coach probably 6 months before I left my agency employee job, right? I was an employee there. That really helped accelerate my planning on the business development side. I was already doing some part-time consulting with clients for a number of years before that, outside of the agency job that I had. I wasn't competing with them. I was very clear with them that what I was doing, but I already had a book of business there. And advise anybody that's especially going to go into the services world to have to get a runway there of some income going before you make the jump. And that certainly helped a lot. One thing I wish I would have known, I started out smaller as an independent consultant. I'm growing now into an agency. I have 2 employees now. I do have a couple other businesses. So those employees help me both with the marketing side for my clients, but also the other businesses. Yeah, it's delegation and, hiring other people to duplicate some of your work. It takes a little bit more time in the beginning for sure to get them up to speed and trained the way you want them. But over time, it's certainly worth it. And in my opinion, hiring, I don't want to say inexperienced, but lesser experienced people is actually better for me, because then I can train them how we do work for the client a specific way, rather than trying to retrain them on something maybe they've learned a different way.
Did the whole hire slow, fire fast process kind of stick with you when you were doing that? Or was it more of, we need to get a culture fit in this as well?
That's a great question. So if I think back, I spent 20 something years managing other people's businesses, 2 to 5 million in annual revenues. So I wore the operations hat. Marketing and sales always a key component of running any small business for, someone else. And, I was really able to cut my teeth on that, and at times had to make some difficult decisions in terms of firing, that sort of thing. I don't really ascribe to the hire slowly, fire fast. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think there's some middle ground there. And we as leaders, managers, need to make sure we've given that person everything that they can to succeed before we pull the ripcord. So, but at the same time, at some point, if it's not working, it's not working. And it's ultimately better for my company, as well as them to part ways.
Blake, I'm guessing you also kind of agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've lucked out pretty well. I would have to say out of the 4 years, I've only had to let one person go so far. And that was just, everyone for our company is remote. And, you can honestly tell when people aren't working when that comes to the case. Almost everyone on my team makes every deadline. So that's the biggest focus for me, is really reaching the deadlines. I don't care when you do the work, nighttime, morning, whatever. But as long as the deadlines are being met, it's not really a problem. But yeah, we just unfortunately had an individual that I was able to see almost over like a 2-week period of almost no work being done, and just had to have that difficult conversation. And I'm the kind of person who I'm sure there's no one who likes that kind of conflict. It's just. It's hard, because, we know you're always messing with someone else's potential way of living. But again, at the end of the day, it's your business, and, you need to take care of yourself and the others that are part of that company.
And ultimately the clients, right?
Clients, absolutely,
because it's going to affect them. You talk about deadlines and also quality, right? Quality of work is an important thing too. At the end of the day, they're paying us and our employees, and we have to make sure we hold up our end of the bargain there too, not just for the company's sake, but for the clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that was one of the biggest things is, I never really thought about as much as when I wasn't a business owner. It was, my mindset before was, I was more like fulfillment. So I would just get my work done, and then it's done for the day. But I become a business owner. That's one of the toughest things, I think, is delegation. You want to do it all because you know that you have the process already memorized in your brain. But you obviously, to grow, you need to take that step and trust others to get it done. But I will say, it's hard. It's a thing that I still struggle with all the time. It's like, hey, am I ready to let this project out of my hands and let someone else take it over, and so forth?
When it does come to delegation, at least, I feel like I've heard this quite a few times about how, one, you should be surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you. And the same thing, that if you are the smartest person in the room, then you're probably doing something wrong. Is that a sentiment you both agree with, or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with it. my dev team is, and well, almost pretty much all, everyone that works for me is probably smarter than me and knows certain things way better. I have, like I said, a bit of a programming background. But I really got out of the mix whenever like Vue and React and Angular got in there. So, anyone who kind of kept up with that, I deem them smarter than me anymore. And that's why I hire people, just because, the coding environment itself has just changed so much. And same with the SEO side, PPC, all of that. My role now is almost really just project management and really kind of sorting those things out. There are still some clients that we do work with where I really get my hands in there and I start doing the coding changes for them. And those are more of our agency clients, because we do consulting and white label for other agencies.
Yeah, and from my standpoint, it kind of depends on where you are as an agency in the growth sequence, right? If you're earlier, smaller, you're probably going to have the top person is which is kind of where I am, right? The has the most experience in SEO, especially with larger scale websites, tens of thousands of pages, hundreds of thousands, international websites and stuff. So I am that for my agency, and I have 2 employees that I think they bring unique perspectives to the table. They may not have the technical expertise that I do, but they're certainly learning aspects of those things, and they look at things differently. So that's the value that I see, at least in my situation, being on the smaller side, scaling up side of the situation. So they're no less valuable to me, though, because they see things differently, even though I have certain experiences.
What was one thing that you wished you had done when starting off your agency?
Well, man, it's a tough question now, because when we first talked, it had only been like 2 weeks. And now after 4 months, I mean, there's just so many things. Like, for instance, the biggest thing is like affording tools and stuff, because I've been working for agencies for so long that was never on my like bill of items, And next thing you know, now I have SEMrush, I have Link Whisper, I have to pay for hosting. And, it was kind of not that I didn't expect it, but it's like, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be, And it's just a small example.
I think this might be a really good call for you, because I feel Miles and Blake have a wealth of information that they could help you out with also.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's definitely a rude awakening, kind of realizing how much you do have to really pay for these tools. I'm literally looking into one right now to see if it's really worth it. And it's like $500 a month, and I'm just kind of like, man, I think, it's really hard to kind of determine that, because I mean, I feel like I'd only be really using it on so many clients, and then there's overlap with these products with each other. So then.
Can I ask what tool it was?
Oh, well, we're looking at what converts right now. One of our biggest so we track everything that our clients do to help show ROI through like lead form submissions, call tracking. And right now, unless the client has a CRM, we've really been doing it kind of like an old school way, loading all those leads into a Google Sheet and sending it to them. The problem that we're having is our clients never get back to us on what
quality of lead.
Yeah. So if they're not willing to like do their side of the work, it makes it hard. And so therefore we can't adjust our strategies. And so we're just trying to take an extra step and see how we can do it. But again, if I had to pay for this product, and, now I'm probably have to raise like all my rates, probably by almost like $50 a month for every client, to be able to obtain the usage of this tool. And a lot of that could be done easy, wouldn't even be necessary if we could actually just get the responses that we need.
Yeah. David, are you, is the issue you're facing like, it sounds like it's related to budget, or is it also trying to decide which tool to pick regardless of budget?
No, not so much which tool. It's more so of a budget constraint. So to give you a little background, I was working for an agency until about 4 months ago. And so he decided to sell. The next thing you know, I found myself out of a job. And I was like, let's see if I could flip this side project into an agency and see if we get something going. And surprisingly, I did, because I didn't have a sales pipeline. I didn't have, a lead book, because I've given those to the agencies that I'd worked for. And so, I know it's pretty bootstrapish, but when you don't have that SEO pipeline built up or that data, and even if you try to run ads, if you even had money for it, it actually gets pretty tough. And so, I'm using it as a learning experience as well. So like my clients could, be in the same situation. And so, yeah, lots of learning, man.
I hope this will help you. One of the things I don't know, maybe you, I'm not sure if you heard my background. So I worked in operations, managing businesses that always had a marketing component, but I had an operations role, general manager or director of operations of something, 2 to 5 million in annual revenue. And, I built up a network over many years, which I'm sure you have too. And when I left my agency job 4 years ago, and even to this day, I built my entire business and grown it considerably just on the basis of my network and referrals. So I am proof of that works. And I think how you approach your network in a non-selling way to actually add value and provide them with nothing related to SEO. Actually, I'm always looking to make connections or advice for other people. That has paradoxically, it seems like it's crazy to just do that, but that has brought me more and more business over time without even asking for that business. Obviously, I tell them what I do, but I'm not there trying to get them to find me some business direct.
How I actually got our first 2 clients is that I had talked to a buddy that played video games just like over the past 8 months. And I told him that I do SEO, and he has a wife who's a plastic surgeon in Florida who just plays video games. And I would like help him on his website. And he heard that I was launching this, and then he got me in contact with somebody else who became our first client. And then he introduced me to our currently our 3rd biggest client. And so, yeah, your network is absolutely crucial for sure.
And I think you can leverage that network for a while before you have to do Facebook ads or do some other traditional marketing. Not that you can't do it, but I think there's I've experienced that. There's a lot more opportunity there than I realized, versus when I started out on my own journey 4 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next one, I think I'll shoot it to David itself. When it comes to differentiators, what kind of makes you different from the other agencies? And I hope we kind of either find some commonality with the 3 of us, or maybe there might be a few differences.
Sure. So I'm a pretty crazy guy. And so I have a bunch of different ways I'm going to differentiate myself. For instance, I've always believed that, you could get 10 clients and you can take on a small brand new business and give them SEO and marketing and website for a whole year. And who are they going to buy their services from when the time comes? Right. And what does that cost an agency? A couple $100 a month to give back, and also say, hey, for every 10 clients we get, we're take on pro bono ones. So that's one of the things that I've been getting around to. But like I said, another speed before we can start giving out free work.
I think that kind of helps with referrals as well, right? Once in a while, you give a pro bono client, and then they say, hey, try checking these people out, and maybe they can do for you what they did for us.
It's not even just that, it's cliche, but it's the American dream. I was very poor. And so I have a very unique talent that could help them make money and help them, get out of whatever situations they're in. So when I see like a new business owner, I'm very small business oriented. I like, I want to work 3 times as hard for them, that's what brings me actually. So I just went off on a tangent.
I try to emulate that in my business. I use the 10% rule. I love my time, whether it's marketing advice or just business advice. I aim to share about 10% of that free of charge. Sometimes it's a little bit more, but I also try to keep it within that range, because if I get too much higher, it affects my ability to bring on new paying clients. And not that I've said it sounds like a selfish goal, but it also, I have to provide for my family, and I have other people who depend on me. So for me, so that I can do that 10% free work, I need to stay focused on the 90% of growing the business. And that's particularly challenging probably with David. And it was for me too 4 years ago when you're starting out, right? Because you're trying to hustle as much business as you can to get things, sustainable and rolling. So I probably did less of that in the first year less than that 10% just because I was, trying to get the business viable.
No, I'm definitely feeling that pain of, I don't have time to grow the business. Well, I have to get the actual work done. And so, yeah, it's tough.
The only thing that helps that is charging more.
Fair enough.
That's the only thing that will help that, especially if I started as an independent consultant. Like I said, I have a couple of employees now, but you just have to charge more to get more time.
Yep. That was also definitely one of the things looking back on that I would change is that, first few clients just out the gates. Oh, I don't have any case studies. I don't have anything because they were with the other agencies before. And, we're going to charge you $10,000 a month. It's a hard sell and honestly would feel dirty, but what do you do?
Blake, any thoughts on that? Or
Yeah, no. I mean, I do some. I mean, mine's probably more closer to Miles, where it's more of like donating my time. And I've also done that with our team. I do have a soft spot for startups, just because and so therefore we end up usually taking like a lower rate. And then I'm also a veteran, so like we give out discounts to other veteran-owned businesses. So but. Those are like some of the biggest areas. Like I said, startups, I just really enjoy just seeing a product go from like nothing to being fruitful. And so that's kind of like a soft spot in my area. But in regards to like the actual main question about differentiating, for us, I do a lot of consulting with other agencies. And it's kind of more, it seems like in Miles' wheelhouse, it's a lot of the operations side that I kind of talk to them about. Some they hire me just for my coding expertise, things like that. But some of the common things I do see through a lot of the agencies is just the communication aspect with their clients. I feel it kind of always shocks me whenever we get a new client and they always say, they preach about how responsive we are. We try not to. Actually, I don't think we've really ever gone more than 40 or 24 hours. We always make sure we respond to someone at least within 24-hour period. I've done consulting for some agencies where I've seen them not respond to a client for like a month. And, that to me has, that has some issues because now the client honestly feels like they're not valued. They're starting to look at other places. And that's usually what ends up potentially happening is the client leaves that place because of the lack of communication on that area. But and then the other part that kind of feels like it stands out, which I feel like there's got to be more agencies doing this. But when I did the research, I was kind of surprised to see that only like 50% of agencies actually help the clients track their ORI or really tie in what they're doing into what the client is making. So, a lot of times it seems a lot of the agencies are just sending them, data. Most of the time, they're, what I'm seeing more with clients is, they don't really care about how their analytics are doing. They want to know, how is this making me money?
I've been hearing that a lot lately about how when it comes internally, there are a lot of metrics that we care about as an SEO or in marketing in general. But when it comes to those shareholders of the leadership team, it's always how do we move the bottom line? And every metric that we're proud of kind of just goes out the window after that.
Yeah. And with other SEO people here, it is a challenge to really track the ORI for SEO. It's like I said, we try our best through call tracking and, UTM tracking through forms. But at the end of the day, we really need that client communication to tell us, like, did these people convert? How much did they spend with you? And, that's where it is. And again, SEO, it's not like a main lead source like pay-per-click would be or social media, paid social media. It's more of like a complementary or secondary lead source. The goal of it is to really make you easy, to be found easier on search engines or AI overviews now. And it's very hard to attribute sometimes those as a direct lead source.
Yeah, it depends on how tightly they have it integrated. I do have some HubSpot clients that have some really good stuff set up on the back end in their larger sales team, and they are tracking all that. So I can see and tell them this is proposals, right, that came from SEO. This is deals closed and dollar amounts. But to Blake's point, that's not always the case. And in a B2B sense, where you're helping them with B2B marketing, you're getting leads. It's not e-commerce, right, where they're transacting directly online. And that's relatively easy too. But AI is changing that too, right? I think it's about half of the AI search engines don't do attribution. Either they don't do it or it's not clear. So there's an underreporting issue there. And then, what happens when they don't click, right? They just do the AI search and then they end up finding your brand and they go to your website, and that's a direct, or maybe it's a branded search that they search for, right? Your brand name or something to find you. So it's increasingly challenging, but I think that's actually what makes us more valuable. Those who focus on business outcomes, not just on SEO analytics. So I always try to provide whatever data I can that shows the effort that I've done yields this many leads and or revenue, if I can show that. So sometimes that's making an indirect, using other data to infer what those are if we are unable to track all that directly. But in most cases, and also with call tracking, like made a great point with B2B, a lot of clients, a lot of that happens with the phone. So having call tracking and setting a bar of how many minutes long is likely a lead and tracking something along those lines, or even listening to some calls to get a sense of those is something that I do with a number of my clients.
I think one thing I've heard a lot when it comes to SEO professionals is that whenever they got into this field, it's most likely because they were very happy to do the problem solving aspect of it. And being in this industry, there's so many problems that keep coming up that we have to just work a way around it or figure out a way to go through it. And Google's not really helping out at all as well.
And I think there's been a lot of talk about, will SEO as a profession, shrink or go down? I think some people will get out of the business, whether agency or independents, but I think people who persevere are going to be more valuable and be able to charge more to clients because those needs are still there. Those business outcomes that they need are still there. And the complexity is greater to be able to solve that and actually help them show up in search.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, you do see a lot of those articles, people write things out there like, oh, is SEO dead, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like it's probably never going to die. I mean, obviously with AI, we're going through a evolution for it and it's evolving. And I feel with that, I think the people who are actually going to your site more are probably better quality now with the AI overviews versus, less just because, most of the AI overviews, it really produces, people are asking questions and they want to get just their answers real quick. They may not be looking for a service. So, I feel like it's going to kind of help eliminate those people who are just looking for, a specific answer that your company might have created in a blog post at one point versus, them truly looking for your actual services. So the people who actually want to look for your services are going to be more the people who go to your website now versus the ones who might have been just going to read an answer to a question.
Yeah. Instead of the game being try and get as much traffic as you can, now it's you have to capitalize on the traffic that you're getting. Right. And so I've always said that, a part of your job as an SEO is also CTR, right? Is a little bit of design, a little bit of coding, because, if there's a breakdown in the cog, then it doesn't work.
No, I was just saying conversion optimization is definitely a big part of SEO, so that's all I was really saying.
And I think we're coming back to where we were quite a few years ago when fresh content would win the day. We're starting to see with AI, it's actually rewarding newer content. Now, it still has to be quality, it still has to be in depth and, meet the searcher's need of what they're trying to look for. But I think it's going to, honestly, I just think it's going to favor the larger and bigger companies, right, that can continue to do this, to crank that out, to consistently be there and demonstrate, month in and month out that they are the experts. And I think it's just shaking up that old model a bit. And I would say maybe there is opportunity for a smaller company, but they're just going to have to be, with SEO specifically, they're going to have to be consistent with it. And not only creating new pages, whether they're articles, product pages, service pages, whatever, or local service landing pages for local SEO, or updating all of those existing pages and at scale, right? For some clients, that's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pages. So how do you do that programmatically, in my opinion, is the real key, because even if it's a smaller business, doing that at scale and being able to do that programmatically will help them scale faster. So without losing the quality, that's the biggest challenge with programmatic SEO.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're kind of talking about how you're saying we've been kind of trying to set more realistic expectations. To be fair, like you're saying, the bigger businesses are going to be the ones that are probably going to be showing up more in the AI overview. Not saying that or smaller businesses can't either, but the percentage, or I guess I should say the odds of that are definitely greater with the bigger companies. Just because what we found, to even work in to get people into the AI overviews has taken a bit more time than what our normal SEO time would be. So we have a lot of clients that are small businesses, and I've had to be upfront with them, with the amount of hours that they kind of have with the tiers that we use, the packages that we have. I don't say that they can't, but I just tell them that the odds are a bit lower because we don't have the amount of time to actually put into it versus someone who's like a larger client of ours that we do have the time that they're paying for.
We are kind of running up against the clock. So I have one hopefully very brief question for you. I'm going to kind of ask all three of you to bring out your crystal balls and make a little prediction when it comes to this. David, I'll start with you. What is one prediction that you have with AI in marketing / SEO that you think might happen soon?
I've kind of been preaching, it also touches back on what we talked about. I've kind of been preaching this for the real winners are going to be those businesses that can do omnichannel marketing, right? Hitting on all pistons. They're on Twitter. They're doing SEO. They're building out content. They're making TikToks, right? When trust and authority has become such a big issue, does Google want to show you in the search because is this a real business? Is it not, right? If you're putting out any content, you're not letting people know that you're out there or whatever. And then your competitors doing over 30 pieces of different content on Twitter, TikTok, your website. Do you think you're going to win? You're not. And so I think it's even more so evident with the slump that SEO is in. But I've always had the kind of office notion, if you will, that, SEOs are kind of like the glue to everything. We see where the leads are going. We see how the CTR not pushing out a change in a timely manner is affecting everything. We may not oversee all of it, but I think SEOs are kind of in our time to shine, almost have their hands in a lot of things, but know how to get stuff done. So I'm looking at it positive.
Yeah. I'm going to take a few notes of this so that if we do have like a second episode with all of us together, we'll see how well the prediction lines up. Blake, what are your predictions for the next year?
I think other parts of AI are going to rapidly expand in other areas. The SEO part, I'm sure, is still going to make some strides, but again, I don't think it's going to be a huge part in it. The thing is you look at a lot of the things that they tell you about how to get ranking in the AI overviews, and it's stuff that we were already doing for our larger clients, producing quality content, anything, building up that authority, including, the proper schema, FAQs, it was already being done. I just don't think it's going to be as drastic. I know on my end, we're using it more. I think if anything right now in the future, as the tools advance more, I think clients are going to get a bigger bang for their buck out of agencies. We're able to produce things faster, just because we have been able to help utilize AI in our systems. Certain things that might have took us, like 8 hours to do now maybe take like 15 minutes to like an hour. My true belief is, with AI, when it first came out, I think like many others, I was a little scared about like, oh, is this going to just replace me or replace everything we do? But in the end, I don't really think that's the case. I think it's going to replace the people who don't utilize AI. But if you know how to use it as a tool system and continue going, then I think you're going to be just fine. Last
but not least, Miles, predictions for the coming year?
Yeah, can I share my screen real quick? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, for me, this is just the Gartner hype cycle that's been pretty consistent for various new technologies, not just AI. I put a box around the we are here. We're in that, we're in the peak of inflated expectations headed towards the trough of disillusionment. So I'm not saying that AI is going to go away or not going to be affect our industry at all. It's definitely changing SEO. But I would echo Blake's point about the technology is really more useful to my agency as a way to get the work done faster, more efficiently, and also at a higher quality. So it's more of an operational tool. We are actively doing, like I said, a lot of the traditional things, brand building, Having their brand show up in traditional search is also one of the prerequisites for having more opportunity in AI SEO. So this chart, and as I'm describing it here, is really more AI SEO is going to change and grow, but not as fast as some people think. And it will evolve over time for sure. So people that are branding their agencies as AI SEO, I think is a bit premature, and also shows their misunderstanding of what traditional search has always been about, which is creating truly helpful content, not for the business that's sharing it, but for the person that's reading it and trying to find the right solution for their business or their personal life.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we, on our end, we kind of, we're still throwing out that, we do help with the optimization, like the AIO, the G, all those terms that are being thrown out right now. Again, what I've been telling everyone, at the end of the day, it's all still SEO. If you're just doing what you're doing, it'll work out. But in regards to the marketing side, though, that's what, some of the audience are actually looking for. So we're still throwing out the terms and using those terms in some of our marketing efforts to obtain some of those clients who in their mind are like, hey, we want this. But again, that's just because other people have already been preaching it to them so much and getting it out there. So for us, we've kind of had to just add maybe another section to our SEO area just to kind of mention that, that's, that we do offer it. But again, like I said, it's really the same strategy that we've really been going through. I mean, maybe just a slight adjustment on it.
But I want to thank all of you for joining the call and having this conversation.